Kia ora tātou, coming from 640S. Today is about the new training cycles coming up. We're now post the Open, so we have two training blocks running side by side beginning Monday, November 25th, 2019. So, with our training programs, one is the dynamic power output and one is the powerhouse program. So for these programs, they're designed for different kind of stimuluses. We know that we now have finished the Open, and for a lot of us, this is the end of our CrossFit season. Now we kind of go holiday mode / off season before beginning new training cycles for next year. So the biggest concern that we often hear from people that are in your situation right now is that I need to work on my weaknesses. So determining what your weaknesses are, or maybe thinking what your weaknesses are versus what they really are, could be two different things. For some of us, we definitely know that we need to get into the strength room and add weights to the barbells. For some of us, we know that we need to do some kind of gymnastic skill capacity. For others, it's endurance work, just general intensity of metcons. But we are now another 10 months away from another CrossFit Open. Unless you're doing sanctional events, which I assume that many of us are doing those, the biggest thing is just to kind of enjoy the next 3 months, have a different change of stimulus, and then also be continuously working on those weaknesses as well. So that's where our program designs have come from, and today will be an insight into those programs. So for the dynamic power output program, a lot of emphasis of what we've come across for this program is the conjugate method. So for the conjugate method, for those that don't know, the West Side Barbell, formed by Louis Simmons back in the 60s. It's been well renowned as a world-class strength program for a very, very long time. We've used it for our powerlifting athletes, which have also gained national champions, people that have represented our nation, and then we currently have one male that trains this style with us, who's back squatting 370 kilos. So we're using a lot of what we've designed here and to implement into our CrossFit training, just for you guys to have kind of fun with this training as well. So with this is accommodating resistance, or law of accommodating resistance, and what that means is that you'll be using chains and bands. So for those things, the reason why we are using our chains and bands is to allow aiding in force on the ascension of the repetition. Okay, so as you come down, the chains will obviously hit the floor, or the bands will descend in tension, and then when you come back up through the rep, whether that be a back squat, deadlift, or the bench press, and those are your three classical powerlifting lifts, the load comes back on, and then you'll basically be pushing through the sticky points of your movements. Okay, this will help you get through those sticky points and aid in more force production throughout the lift as well. Usually, those movements will be done on kind of lighter percentages. So for us, this time around, we're looking at performing one heavy lift of each of those 3 lifts per week, and then one dynamic effort per week. So for the dynamic effort, what you'll likely see is the percentage of intensity will be lowered. So it'll be tapered right back to something like 30, 40, 50% maximum. One thing to move a heavy weight slow, but it's another thing to move a lightweight fast. So we need to teach the body kind of both systems and both stimuluses, and then we're looking to transfer moving a lightweight fast to moving a heavyweight fast, until of course you meet that new breakdown of percentage where your form starts to break down again. But in that point in time, you've got a whole different realm of percentages and things start to change once more. So that's kind of a small breakdown of our law of accommodating resistance. You'll be doing one dynamic portion per classical lift a week, and one heavy lift of the same classical lifts per week as well. We haven't seen deadlifts in our program for a very long time, and we usually don't do a hell of a lot of deadlifts. They're not hugely important in CrossFit to do a 1 rep max deadlift, but it takes a heck of a long time to train that, and it also damages your CNS, or your central nervous system, somewhat, to the point of recovery is just too hard for the complexity of the other things that we have to train with. All right, for a powerlifter, absolutely have that in your program weekly. You could probably pull it out a portion at a time per yearly cycle or periodization of what you choose to train with. But for CrossFit as such, honestly, you're not looking at doing deadlifts every single week. It's not hugely important to have a 1 rep max deadlift, but it really, really is important to work at that kind of 70 to 80% range for amount of volume or repetitions over sets of 10 to 15 reps. This is now the point in time that we are looking at increasing our 1 rep max, and also bringing and introducing that deadlift back into our mix-up of movements. So that is a little accommodating resistance. We are going to be starting off this 12-week cycle with a hypertrophy block. So what you will see is longer sets of repetitions per set. So it's not going to be uncommon to see bench press sets of 15, 12, 12, 10, and 10. So the volume is going to go up somewhat for the initial phase of the program before it comes back down, and the repetitions come down. The sets may increase, but the loading will get heavier. Okay, the reason for our hypertrophy sets is to gain more lean muscle mass into the surface area of the muscle, and plus a greater surface area of the muscle. What this will do is will allow more creatine to be introduced into the muscle or produced into the muscle. With the creatine usage in the muscle, then your 1 rep becomes 3 rep, and 3 reps, 5 reps, etc. So you get more output per repetition. So that's our first goal, is to just get an understanding of lean muscle mass, creating that by using the hypertrophy for about 4 to 6 weeks, and then we dilute our repetitions and we bring in some more sets, and then the intensity goes up with our loading. So we get strength as it comes through throughout the program as we kind of die off the repetitions of hypertrophy. And then we dilute our repetitions and we bring in some more sets, and then the intensity goes up with our loading. So we get strength as it comes through throughout the program as we kind of die off the repetitions of hypertrophy. Each week you will be seeing some technical weightlifting. We will have block work. So for instance, you might be going off the blocks once per week for the clean, once per week for the snatch, and we will be doing the split jerk out of a rack also, or off blocks. All of this stuff is just really to harness technique and keep it dialed back in. So if the block work is learning how to lift throughout a different position, you might see mid-thigh, you might see above the knee, you might see below the knee. We have a lot of experience with weightlifting here, Olympic weightlifting, so we do have national champions, we do have national coaches involved with the program, and this is a huge focus on us, just to get that technical mastery right before then going and adding ridiculous kind of kamikaze loading next year. And we're not trying to PR every single time that we lift, but we are trying to re-escape or kind of reinvent a blank canvas and just build it up correctly from the start, so then when we do get back into those heavy intensity weights beginning to middle of next year, we're right on time to then having this new canvas of a great moving structure, and then the weight will add itself as you move better. So what you'll see in week number 1, the snatches from the blocks or the cleans from the blocks from mid-thigh. So mid-thigh is a kind of a funky position. Generally, people will set up, the knees will be all the way back. All the loading is in the posterior chain, the hamstrings, the glutes, the lower back, the upright tension of the upper traps, and you'll feel the weight loaded in the heels. But typically, this is actually the middle portion or the beginning of the second pull. So the knee should be slightly underneath the bar. The forward inclination of the shin angle will be there, and the weight not so far back in the foot, but in the middle of the foot. Now, these aren't things that are typically known through CrossFitters doing their weightlifting sections and the programs, but they are going to be explained in detail of how you should be approaching these lifts and what your kind of focuses are on and what you should be feeling. Now, in our private closed Facebook group, if you aren't sure if you are doing the right thing, don't feel bad about putting videos up and trying to get some good review back, because you're probably not going to be the only one either. We will be doing some tempo weightlifting on the Saturdays also. So the Saturday program will have tempo weightlifting. It won't be off of the blocks, but it will be a good chance for you to feel out positions on the descension of the each repetition. So they'll be done in more likely or not in complexes. So for week number 1 on a Saturday, for instance, we'll be doing a hang clean plus a full clean plus 2 split jerks. Okay, so that's 4 repetitions. 70% of your 1 rep max. For some of you, you'll be like, I could go heavier. Definitely, you probably could, but that's not our goal for this as much as it is to learn our positions and how we're pulling the barbell from first to second pull, transitioning to the third pull underneath the barbell, and recycling our split jerks and getting our footwork right. Things like this. So on that first complex, you'll be seeing a hang clean, so you'll deadlift the barbell up tall. You'll see a 2-second tempo descend down to above the knee, so you're going to feel what it's like to hit the power position. Knees will go slightly forward, and then they'll transition back as the barbell meets the top of the knee. This will be your starting point. You'll do your hang clean, stand tall. Then you'll have a 4-second tempo down to the floor for a touch and go clean. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 as the power position comes, the knees travel back to above the knees come through the bar as the bar lowers underneath, tap the ground, we pull back the other way. There won't be a tempo on the ascension of the lift because we want that portion to always be fast here, but we want to feel out the positions on the way down, keep our midline intact, and then it's a nice thorough structure throughout the portion of the lift. So that's kind of the idea of the weightlifting this time around. We are going to have it frequently. It's not going to be out the gate heavy, but it's definitely going to be something worthwhile of taking note of how while we're moving. The aim is technical mastery, and if you need help with it, put the video review up and we'll get some coaches assigned to it just to detail it a little bit further. 3 gymnastics components each week. So these some of these are optional. Some of these options are pick one or the other. Some of them may even be choose both. But for the most part, the gymnastics, this is a really, really good chance for us just to dive in deep and then add these new kind of reps or skills to our tool belt. Day 1, Monday the 25th, I know that there is an upper body gymnastics version and a lower body gymnastics version. So for some of the movements that we will be covering throughout these coming weeks, or these 12 weeks, so the likes of pistols, strict handstand push-ups, handstand walking, strict ring muscle-ups, just upper body strength pulling capacity in general, so ring pull-ups, strict pull-ups, strict bar pull-ups, chin-ups, ring dips, box dips, bar dips, all these kind of movements that are going to aid and facilitate the increase of your specific gymnastics goals. We also will be touching into the higher realm of gymnastics also, meaning ring handstand push-ups and freestanding handstand push-ups, freestanding handstand holds. These are also things that we're going to progress and see for the people that do have these other things in their skill belt already, and try and see if that we can manipulate or add value to those sections, because if you are now a sanctionals athlete and you're tapering or you're kind of heading towards the next level, you're going to be introduced to some of these things, and we want to be having touched on them before you get to them and say, hey, I can't do it. So don't be that guy. And it's also, once again, it's just going to be a little bit of fun, getting upside down and then implementing these new tools. Swimming. Prioritize your swimming. If you are an athlete that is looking to go to the next level, you must know how to swim. Again and again, we harp on about it. We don't want you to get to that point where you are tested with the swimming. You're like, man, I wish this event wasn't coming, but I always knew it was. It's written in the program. Every town that we know of has access to a swimming pool. You kind of got no excuse. But here's just a couple of other things that will give you an insight as to why it's a good idea to do swimming also, not just to learn how to swim or to be good at it for competition. Okay, this is really, really good for the muscles. It helps increase your blood flow. You get proprioception of awareness of where you are in space and time in the water. We get the angles or like resistance from water hitting us in all kinds of different angles at different times with different strokes and position or body positions in the water. So these are all great things to allow us to consider that swimming is a good thing for us, and to prioritize that if you don't already. So swimming is definitely a good thing. If you were at a competition and you're the best weightlifter, you're the best runner, you're the best at gymnastics, and you get 5 first place, and you're swimming, you get dead last, you don't win. Okay, so this is bringing it up to a level where it's actually achievable or sustainable on the leaderboard, but it doesn't hindrance, or it's not a hindrance for you or your performance in total. For the dynamic power output program, there'll be 2 swimming sessions per week, and for the powerhouse program, there'll be 1 session per week. So we definitely recommend that you do it. I know that there's a lot of skills and drills on there. We are aiming to add those into our movement library as well, but for the most part, they'll probably all be on YouTube as it is. Our swimming is designed by head swimming coach Carlin Peterson. He was an ex-national swim champion of New Zealand, so there's definitely a lot of good work there. It's not just guesswork, and it does tie into your program as well. For this cycle specifically, we are focusing on meterage, so it's just lots of meters, and there is skills and drills involved as well, which I know that a lot of other programs don't give, and definitely the detailing of the drills also. So once more, if you need feedback on the drills, send through some video reviews. Carlin will be in touch with those and touching them up for you, giving you some information about them. Or once we get our movement library down, you'll have a better insight as to what they are as well. Or again, access to YouTube. You can generally find all the movements on there again. Body Fit. It's an integral part of our training program. It's proven that a lot of our athletes that are training at a high clip will religiously get through the body fix, and I know that we have a lot of athletes out there that aren't doing it, that do often come up with little niggles, or maybe they just run out of time to do this. So you really do have to put an extra bit of importance in there. 10 minutes is all it takes if you're really, really stern and thorough with it. If that's straight after your workout, I know it's hard if you're cramped for time, but do try and get it done. At worst, you can do it before the workout. It's a good warm-up if you don't know what to do as a warm-up. If you spend too much time, just do those things. They are going to cover prehab and rehab movements, so rehabilitation of sore muscle groups, and we do try and dive throughout the whole body per week. We try and touch on X amount of reps, externally rotating the shoulders, getting the scapula involved, having the rotator cuff doing X amount of presses, and just stabilizing movements as well, as much as we are trying to get the hips open, and we're trying to fire up the IT band and get our knees tracking well, and the squats. Things like this is what you're going to see in the body fix, and it's definitely a recoverable tool, and it's going to be something that gives you a bit more longevity in your training career. In the body fix, you are going to see things like RNT methods, which is reactive neuromuscular training. Big words, but what we're looking for here is that there's going to be a band versus a joint, and we are going to get some stability through the joints throughout the range of motion of the movement. Things that you might see is a hip shift and a squat. So someone squatting to one side, we can use a band laterally against the good side, and if we squat and we're really forcing against that tension that's pushing us back to one side to stay in the middle, this is going to help increase your position when you squat down to have a more neutral position squat and fixing this hip shift. Okay, so this is again, reactive neuromuscular training, and it's just bands versus joints and stabilizing better positions. The other thing that you'll see a form of is ART, which is active release technique. So this will be done throughout myofascial tissue release. For instance, the greatest example comes to my head is a kettlebell adductor release, where your inner thigh or your adductor is on a kettlebell, you've been lying down prone, and then you just have action moving with your foot up and down, round and round rotations. We have pendulum kettlebell shoulder smashes. These are things that have active release techniques, and active just means that you are moving throughout the portion of a myofascial tissue kind of release or pressure. So that's our body fix. We do recommend that you do get it done. A method for finding out loading in this program is RIR. Now this may take a couple of weeks to get used to, but RIR stands for reps in reserve. So quite often you'll see percentage work. For a lot of you, you may not know what your 1RMs are, and every other day you come in, you retest the new 1RM, which is typical of CrossFitters, but that's not what we're looking for here. So the method that we're going to use this time around is RIR. Last cycle was an RPE scale, which had you have a figurative feeling of how you felt before going into the movement. Now this one, the RIR reps in reserve, you're going to get to, let's say it's a set of 15, and you get to the 15th rep and you think, hey, I probably have about 6 left in me. That's a good time, if it says 6 reps RIR, to rack it up, and that's going to be your 15 rep RIR, rep in reserve loading or intensity on the barbell. The metcons that we have in this cycle, all kind of learning tools. They're not too focused on intensity. We just come out of the CrossFit Open cycle, so everything was kind of wall balls, toe bars, rowing, thrusters, all your general CrossFit Open standard movements. Now we go back into a little bit more complexity, but a lot of it is just learning for time, pacing strategies, and just figuring out our capacity and endurance on certain movements. So I'll pick out Tuesday workout, week 1, press capacity. You're going to start off with 30 strict handstand push-ups. You'll rest 1 minute. You'll go into 5 rounds, 10 barbell shoulder to overheads, 60 kilos males, 40 kilos for the females, 10 strict pull-ups. Rest 1 minute, finish with 30 strict handstand push-ups. There is a tight time cap on that of 14 or 15 minutes, but it's just a good chance to see where your capacity is at. There is scaling options there. If you don't have 30 strict handstand push-ups and say under 2 or 3 minutes, it's probably unlikely that you will get this done. So there is elevation of the ab mat, of the range of motion rather. So using an ab mat with a flat level surface, or you can add a plate in there. You could drop the reps down to something that's more achievable. But these are the implements that are going to get you to understand where your capacity is at, but also build the endurance at the same time to make that number increase. Another kind of metcon that we can look at, you're going to have EMOMs with skill work, different kind of transitions, different group together movements, so you have an understanding of what it's like to do 60 double unders into 3 rope climbs, but you also have understanding of what it's like to do 3 rope climbs into 60 double unders. Different kind of stimuluses. It's different again if you've ever done 21-15-9 Fran or 9-15-21 Fran. Same workout, same reps, same numbers, but completely different stimuluses and ways to attack it. We have a little bit of strongman stuff in here. We have dead bulls, we've got farmers carries, we've got some sled runs for power output. There's a whole bunch of good stuff here. Each day there is the extra ammunition, and this is kind of where it becomes really, really important. Extra ammunition is the optional accessory work. So this is our play on it with the whole theme of the 6'4" Army. You get to basically pick 1 to 2 of the perceived weakness extra ammunition pieces per week, per session, based on your perceived weakness. So if you were to do every single piece that's written like that, that's just ridiculous. I don't think that there would be a single person on planet Earth that would survive doing everything that's written on the program every single day, and by no means is that our expectation, and no one does that. So it is a wise decision, and it's a good chance for you to kind of pick up on the things that you think that is best for yourself, and if you don't know what they are, again, just send a message through and we'll answer those for you. But basically, 80% of the program is done by everyone, and then the other 20% is where it really gets specified into diving into what is done or what is best suited for you according to what we've got. Okay, so that's a really good chance for you to work on your weaknesses there, and then you'll see the body fix to finish as well. So that's summarizing our dynamic power output program. We've got 12 weeks. Each day, well, it's kind of going to be funky. You're going to have law of accommodating resistance bands and chains, classical powerlifting. We're going to do technical weightlifting. We're starting off with hypertrophy sets. We're going to build it down low into strength, a strength round by the end of it before we go into our next cycle. Our chosen method of loading will be reps in reserve, just so it gives you a better feel of what you've got. And on the day it might be different. You know, one day you might do 15 reps at 80 kilos on a back squat, and then the next week you're supposed to do 15 reps again, same reps in reserve. But today you don't feel like you have it. Doesn't mean that you don't have it at all. You just bring it down to however your body's feeling on the day. There's a lot of work in this program. It definitely is fun, and we are trying to bring that element back for the next 3 months. It's just for you to enjoy your training. It's all well and good having a target marker of a competition or the open to be there for you to train towards, but it's also just a really, really good thing or chance just to enjoy your training, full stop. It's the thing that you're going to do the most. You'll be there 3 hours a day for some people, 2 hours a day for others, and 1 to 1.5 hours for most. So get in there, get most of it done, tick the boxes, and just try and perform at a high intensity, or rather a high clip of technical mastery, because that's really, really what we're focusing for here, and just have a good time doing it. That's the Dynamic Power Output Program. It does begin on Monday the 25th November 2019. If there are any questions or any issues, please fire them through, and we'll do our best to get them answered as soon as we can.